An Abacus Online presentation. Medium Override Defense, 1 of 3. Writing and Lore Development. Medium Override and its offshoot projects by Maura G. Nicholson. The purpose. I have written a narrative to the manga I am producing called Medium Override. The purpose of development documents and written narrative is so that the story of my manga is to a standard of which I am proud of. In this presentation, I will talk a lot about my process and the story itself. I will give relevant links at the end. I hope to get the creative written expression standard with this project as I wrote a full narrative. What the heck is Medium Override? Meet Davy Higgins and follow her through her story where she blossoms into a beautiful daisy. We follow her through her missions where, with the help of Janet Jones, she overrides her body to gain access to supernatural powers and a cool uniform. They battle and cure the people who corrupt, or in simple terms, become monsters. Is that all there is to it? Of course not. An evil corporation lurks in the shadows, exploiting weaknesses in the fabric of reality to make more people corrupt. The story's evolution. One way my writing style could be seen developing is how I actually format the document. I used to care more about aesthetics over efficiency, but I've realized it's basically a novel. If I do put it online, I should be more concerned with the grammar and descriptive content, as the font I choose won't translate to how people read it online. When I initially started writing the story, I was disorganized. I didn't have dedicated documents for each lore element because the world building or even antagonists were completely non-existent. Once I got my actual inspiration material, which I will now call my aim, situated, I was able to figure out how to make the world and antagonist work. My aim. Some of my inspiration includes The Matrix, Ghostbusters, various Magical Girl anime and manga, the MCU, or anything that my mind has absorbed and blended into the plot, such as a member of the LGBTQ+'s story, or old computers. The process that worked. A toolbox of story mechanics had been developed over the iterations of the narrative that I disliked. For example, I was slowly developing the idea of a defunct computer company. This helped pave the way for actually wiring story elements together. I have written out a 6-step process of which I now follow for generating written narratives. I generated this over the many iterations of writing Medium Override until I got the process right and the quality of the product I wanted. Number 1. I brainstormed and generated ideas for the pitch of the story. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to have a magical girl narrative where the main character is revealed to be trans by the transformation device. Number 2. I documented inspiration. I took note that I needed to implement the passion I have for old technology, and also that I wanted to make it a story of a simulation like The Matrix. Number 3. I created the background development files. These help keep the story's dialogue and references stay consistent, so that terminology used makes sense and doesn't change drastically from scene to scene. I wrote a guideline, number 4. Sorry, my bad. I wrote a guideline. This was a document where I paraphrased my ideas for the actual narrative into a sort of prototype narrative, where it didn't matter if things changed drastically from it to the final or even to the first draft. It was just to keep the storytelling on track. Number 5. Writing the story. By this point, I just needed to sit down and write the whole thing. During this process, new ideas formed, so I had to go back to the previous steps temporarily before continuing, and in the first revision I had to edit what I had written in the first few chapters. Number 6. I got feedback from peers and professionals. Francis is an example of a peer, someone who formerly attended the school I go to, who I met online via an Impact Year student. I also have a connection with Dr. Jennifer D.K., as a teacher thought they would be a great fit for the type of project I'm doing. The feedback from Francis was the first feedback I got, and even feedback from a peer made me realize I needed to rewrite half the story. The feedback from Jennifer cemented that the ideas I had were good ideas that promoted good world building and likable characters. Special thanks to Dr. Chingy Chen, my step-parent I live with over the summer, for giving me crucial grammar tips and to help the narrative read like a professional piece of literature. The world. The setting of Medium Override is a modified version of our world in the school year of 1999 to 2000, a few months before the turn of the millennium. The world has a slowly growing number of corrupts, which are humans that have physically corrupted like a file, as they are in the computer simulation, and therefore everything is a file. The way the magical girls transform is that they use a modified computer to prime their bodies for repeated overrides, then use a more portable computer to fold their physical body into a piece of information so that they don't get hurt very badly, as their body isn't effectively flapping around behind them. For my main character, they have not only a physical sex, but a true sex that aligns with their gender identity. When partially overridden, which is the state that characters are in when they are primed for transformation, the true sex of the fully overridden body leaks into the physical body, causing HRT-like effects. Interested in reading? Links and information. Before I give those, though, presentation notes. Before I had a meeting with one of my teachers, I used a lot more self-deprecating language in the previous slides, thinking it would add humor to them. I was right, but it wasn't quite for the right audience that I would be presenting to. Another note that I haven't written here is that reading this out loud was probably the best thing for me to do, especially since I had to redo it because the recording had the music too loud the first time. But I say this only because I am probably going to, I would imagine I'm probably going to be, terrible at, actively, live presenting this. But also I can put this on the internet as a video. Anyways, moving on. The story is hosted at abacusonline.neocities.org/mediumoverride/story. A mouthful, I know. But updates on the whole project are at blips.club/mediumoverride. Both the words medium and override are capitalized in that URL. Thank you for attending or watching this presentation. Comment your questions below, or if you are attending the presentation, have them answered live. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.